So here we go, continuing to catch up on some very overdue commissioned reviews, and this time, it's a movie I have not watched in a while, and was kind of really curious to go back to it, see what I could find more in it, and that is Atlantis, the Disney animated film. So, my memory of this, I didn't see it in theaters at the time. I saw it a bit later, but my overall impression was mixed. I remember liking the design, liking, some of the mechanics of the devices, liking some of the performances and some of the characters, and liking the general vibe of it, but finding a lot of little things that kind of bugged me. And ultimately, that's still kind of the case. I think I found more individual things that I did also like this time through. But here's the thing. I want to like this movie more than I do. And I certainly have a ton of understanding and empathy for the people who love it and defend it, because I'm an unabashed defender of Treasure Planet. Disney's other big didn't make nearly as much money as it needed to non-musical, more serious-minded adventure animated film. So, I get it. But I still... There's a lot of little things that irk me about this. But as I said, there's a lot more that I appreciated this time. I don't think I really cared that much for Milo, just as a character, last time that I watched him. I think a lot of that just had to do with how recognizable Michael J. Fox's voice was. I found it distracting. For some reason, I didn't as much this time. I don't know if it was just because I got over it, but it worked for me better this time. So Milo grew on me a bit more. He's even got some really great moments, usually when he's really frustrated, saying things like, I wish I had a better plan than this. Or, okay, look, here's an idea. You translate the Asian language and I'll wave the gun around. I enjoy when he gets flustered and frustrated or excited. He has great energy. And I actually do appreciate him quite a bit more than I did the first time that I watched this. There's weird little things. I love the fact that he goes home to his apartment. There is, in terms of her first appearance, a very over-sexualized woman, in terms of just look, stuff falling off the shoulder, dim lighting, the sort of saxophone music playing. It's like classic noir femme fatale music, and he's just like, what are you doing in my house? He's not even flustered oh, hot girl. He's just like, what? And I kind of like that. So that works for me. Like I said, the design for the most part is good. I think if my overall nitpicks with this thing have to do mostly with things that don't quite integrate properly, or that just aesthetically bugged me, or honestly, my main thing with this film, because on paper I should like it. I love 2D animation. They sunk a lot of work into making this look good. I like adventures. This is why I like Treasure Planet. So I like this style of story. I like a rollicking adventure. I like Jules Verne style Lost Civilization stories. So why don't I like this more? I think, honestly, what this film needs more than anything else is about 15 more minutes. It runs, I think, an hour 38 with credits, so, hour 33 as a practical matter, which it's just not enough time. Because for a story like this to really have those properly impactful moments, it needs to stop and breathe, and you need more than just the one reveal shot of the impressive things. So, I'm going to talk about this fairly freely. So, spoilers, I guess. There's your warning. We see the submarine, and the submarine's really impressive. But we really just kind of get the one reveal of it, and then, 5-6 minutes after they launch the thing, it's sunk? you don't really get a sense of the majesty of the setting when they're just underwater. And like you'll get one big panning shot of the city, great, and you'll get like these glorious reveal shots, but the movie doesn't have the time to slow down and just dwell in the space. Like, I grew up on Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And while looking at it now, I can admit to it's a little bit slow. They probably could have trimmed a bit of the underwater photography stuff that they did. But it does still need to be there because you have to just dwell in the space and just see this environment and just be there and kind of soak it in. This film doesn't have the time to soak in any of this. It has to keep moving. And the pace that's kind of dictated by animated films means that it doesn't have the time that it needs. Now, the other possible solution to this, and if you know me and my channel at all, you might realize this suggestion coming, like just cut the romantic subplot. It's enough for Milo to fall in love with this civilization. He does not need a specific person to fall for. So the time you could have saved at cutting that subplot and cutting out the specifics that make it a romantic subplot probably could have given you at least 5 more minutes where we could have just spent, being in these spaces and just soaking it in. But, like, realistically, that was never going to happen. This is one of those cases where, like, cut the romantic subplot is a very common recommendation from me for a lot of things. But, like, I do understand it's rare that it would actually happen. And to be fair, the romantic subplot in this actually isn't bad. It's pretty good as far as these things tend to go. The only reason I'm suggesting cutting is because this thing desperately needs more time. And if they're not going to add to the total runtime, because animated film can't have it be more than, well, I mean, they did go past 90 minutes. I'll give them that. But it's like, we can't hit 100 minutes. Oh, no. So, because for some reason that's an immutable law, my solution then becomes cut stuff. Or you know what else you could cut? Mole. I mentioned I like most of the characters. Like, I like Milo. Kita doesn't do a lot to impress me. She looks great. Good performance. And I like some of the side characters. I like Vinny. I like Sweet. I like Audrey. I like Mrs. Packard. But I cannot stand Mole. I hate him. Because in here, you know how I said some things just don't fit? Mole does not fit. For the tone of this thing overall, Mole is a frickin' Looney Tunes character. He has no business being in this story, in this setting, with this tone. From his first appearance, he irritated the hell out of me. And again, I think that was just the mandates of Disney at the time. They had to. This was already breaking from formula in some ways. It wasn't a musical. It's an adventure. Different tone-wise from a lot of their bigger successes. So they were already breaking formula in a lot of areas. We have to keep as much of the rest of the formula as we can, including the over-the-top comic relief. This is the same mentality that gave us the gargoyles in Hunchback of Notre Dame. And look, you had comic relief. You didn't need Mole. Vinny's funny. Hell, I'll even put up with Cookie. I don't really like him either. That's the chef. But I can deal with him. Mole, get him off the screen. The villains are interesting. Because we've got Helga and we've got Rourke are basically the core of the villains. And I like that when the turn happens. Like the degree to which they are prepared to just destroy everything if they get what they intend to be getting paid for. I like when that turn happens that the entire crew is on Rourke's side. I like that Milo was the only one who didn't know. Now, I also buy, especially within the confines of the time they had with the characters they built for the audience this was intended for, I also buy that the core supporting cast that we've gotten to know then don't keep going with the work because they're like, there weren't supposed to be people down here. Like, we've done a lot of bad stuff, but we don't do this. You know, you're gonna kill a whole lot of people with what you're doing, and we're not on board for that. So, like, I buy that, but I also like that the only one who wasn't in on it was Milo. I like that moment of seeing these characters, again, most of whom I've come to like, suddenly become intimidating. Like, I remember that moment when Vinny blows the doors off the palace so they can go and rough up the king, and he's just there with dynamite. Knock, knock. And I'm like, dang, Vinny, the hell? And honestly, that's really good. Rourke is voiced by James Garner, who does a really good job. He has a voice that can be commanding but sound trustworthy for the length of time he needs to be. Now, it's hinted that there's going to be a term with him a decent amount ahead of time. The movie doesn't overplay that twist. And he's not like Clayton from Tarzan, where like as soon as he shows up, you're like, that's the villain. So he works. I also like Helga, and I like the animosity that happens when push comes to shove, quite literally. And Rourke thinks that he can get his payday if he throws her out of this Zeppelin to ditch weight. And that infighting, that worked for me pretty well. I liked that. The way Rourke dies is weird. I think that was another thing that could have used a little bit more time, is a little bit more explanation of how this stuff works. Like, I don't expect full details. Like, it's you know, it's vaguely magical, spiritual. Like, it's not going to make sense. And I get that, but I'm watching this going, I see what happens to Rourke, and I'm like, the hell? It's moments like that that make me feel like this could have used like another 2 minutes of exposition sprinkled about here or there, to make that go down a little bit better. It probably doesn't help that I feel like it's reminiscent of the death of the main villain from the third Aladdin movie, the King of Thieves, and I like that one better. I think overall as a movie I like it better, but I definitely like that death better. I think it just works better. If you haven't seen that, then you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'll get off that topic. One thing I will say about Rourke, though, and like this is petty, I know that, but look, things bug me, and I hate his chin. I hate that the curve is inverted, and maybe the reason I hate it is because I watch too many things like DuckTales, and it makes his chin look like a duck bill to me. So, I hate it. I hate that. That's tiny. I know that. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, at least, but it does bug the crap out of me. But there's enough little things that I still say, if you like this general tone and vibe, if you like adventure films in the sort of classic sense, I mean, give it a shot. Maybe you'll get more out of it than I did. Oh, seriously though, this thing's got a body count on it. And like, part of that I expected. Like, the backstory we're gonna get on Atlantis, city sinks, a lot of people are gonna die. That's kind of an understanding, but like, the crew of that submarine, which we get a number tacked onto lately, this thing's got a body count of like, and we're watching these explosions and these people get sealed in compartments that are flooding, and I'm like, there was about 200 people who died. The hell, Disney? And again, I think the lack of breathing space and the fact that we couldn't just spend more time existing on the submarine makes that feel more frivolous. It makes those deaths ring really weird for me because like if we'd spent more time there and like gotten to the point where it felt like, oh, we're gonna be with this crew in this ship for a little bit, so that it felt like a loss when it was blown up. Then the idea that all these crewmen went down with it might have some weight, but without it, it's just like, okay, you killed how many people? All right, I don't know. It's weird. Again, I think a lot of these things would have just worked better if the whole thing had more time. But there's still a lot to like here, and I get why some people really like it. I've just got enough things that drag it down for me that I'm just like, if I'm in the mood for this kind of thing, 2D animated, I'm gonna watch Treasure Planet instead. That's just what I'm gonna do. So what do you think about Atlantis, the Lost Empire? Forgot to put the subtitle on it when I introduced it initially. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon. That is how I pay the bills. And that's also how you can commission me to review things. It's how this review happened. But no pressure. The other stuff that I mentioned that doesn't cost you anything also helps me out. But even if you don't want to do that, that's okay. Because we take a relaxed attitude around here. So just come on back next time you need a break.